have to go back into like the monthly chart, and that's going to be too far. But anyway, in 94, the market was declining, or maybe a little earlier, but it had to do with the Kuwait War. Many of you will remember that. And the market was in a decline given the fact that the Kuwait War was going to start. And there was a date. There was even kind of a date for the Kuwait War to start. And it might have been in December. I can't remember exactly, but I had been using a Lawrence McMillan strategy called rolling for credits. And this strategy is insane. Just for the record, it's an insane strategy. This is nothing bad on him, but it's just an insane strategy. It's maybe equivalent to doubling down at the blackjack table. So let's say, as an example, you come out here and we're at the blackjack table having a great old time, and you place a $10 bet and you win. And so let's say you make $10, or let's say whatever it is, I don't even really remember, but you make $10. But then you place another bet and you lose $10. Your strategy would effectively be to then bet $20 so you can make back the 10 you just lost and get ahead by 10. So you would be where you were before. That's why, by the way, when you go to the Las Vegas tables, there's always a limit on the gambling tables for blackjack to what's the total amount you can bet. Have you ever thought about why that is? Why do they put down what's the total amount you can bet? Because number one, it limits their exposure. And number two, it stops and puts a lid on any strategy that doubles down. So if the limit is $5,000 and you're doing $10, you could double down. Let's say your bet's $10. So 10 times 2 times 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You can make a bet 9 times, and they work out to about that same number no matter what the limit on the table is. It kind of works out, roughly speaking, that you can make 9 or 10 bets before you'll reach the betting limit, and therefore you won't be able to chase that loss with doubling down. So the options, it's not a good strategy. It can work, certainly, but believe me, you can lose, surprisingly, 9 times in a row at the blackjack tables. Not that I'm an expert at blackjack, but you can lose 9 times in a row, 10 times in a row, and do that over and over. It's surprising, but it does happen. And if you do that, you're putting a huge amount of money up essentially to make $10, because that's what you're chasing, is that first $10 loss. If you're trying to make that loss back and doubling down, the whole purpose of that double down is to get that 10 back. So you're risking a lot more money to make a lot less. And then if that doesn't work, you're risking that money. You have to double that down, all in the exercise to try to get back your second $10 loss, but you're putting up huge amounts of money to do that. So it ends up crashing and burning inevitably, and you're out a whole bunch of money where you could have just played the game more normally. In the options world, that's what I was doing with rolling for credits. And I won't go through all the minutia of it, but it's very similar to that, where if you have a winning position, you collect, and then you're constantly, let's say, shorting the market. That's what I was doing. And I happen to be on the right side of it, because I don't make the market go up and down, and nor does anybody. It was just happened to be going down. And even though there were painful moments for sure, it finally did allow for a profit. And then I would just short it again. And I just kept doing that. And then the Kuwait War started and the market bottomed. And it was when the market bottomed and started moving up that I didn't realize and didn't know. I really didn't know what was going on very well at the time. And I ended up throwing away $200K. Yes, $200,000 in a rolled option position, because when the Kuwait War started, it seemed like, oh, it's going to get really bearish then. No, that was sell the rumor, buy the fact. And indeed, the market did bottom when the Kuwait War started, and it never, ever looked back. So you can only imagine, if you go to, say, 1994, whatever the date was, I can't remember when the Kuwait War started. We could check it out, but whatever it was, From that point forward, the market never looked back. And so you would still be rolling for credits, right, on the short side of the market, perhaps, which would be terrible because nobody has enough money to take all that and keep rolling and rolling. It works very well if you're on the right side of the market. So that, after having a roughly $160,000 gain from rolling for credits, I ended up giving all that back and 40,000 to then take that position off. And I knew at some point, I remember I think I was in San Diego. I was there to visit my brother, and I was in a hotel, and I was in my room, and I had gotten up. I was still in bed, and I'd gotten up, and the market was still pushing on that position. And I realized, I said, listen, it may turn, but it may not. I know that I don't know. This was one of those moments where you just have to be honest with yourself. And I knew that I didn't know. And I said, why am I going to throw away more money when I really don't know what the hell is likely going to happen? And I took the position off, and that was a hard day. It was brutal. But my net out of pocket was about 40, which was a lot better. Or excuse me, I was up, I was down 40,000 net because I'd made 160 on the way down rolling for credits. My whole point was, I had a big moment that day. It was crushing. It hurt. But I remember saying to myself just before I took the position off, there's no reason to be in because I don't know what's likely going to happen. I'm just gambling. I really don't know. And I'm gambling with money that's very difficult to refund unless you're making lots and lots of money doing something. And at that time, I wasn't. At that time, I was using money that I had already had saved up and so on. So knowledge is key. There has to be knowledge. You have to know something in order to do this well.